Oh my God, this is harder than it looks. This is why I live stream. Like so many things. Anyway, I will be journaling with my face this decision to pursue stand-up comedy. Now, I could just do an open mic, give up, last 3 days, decide I don't want to do that anymore and quit. That's okay. We're having fun, okay? But I do want to give it a good go, partially because one of the things that I've done over the years is that when I'm uncertain about where I need to go, whether it's, work, business, relationships or whatever, if I just sit back and observe and just let myself receive the messages that I need to receive, eventually there will be enough information for me to make the decision. And that there's things that just keep recurring, keep coming up, keep recurring, keep coming up. And I'm not hearing it. For whatever reason, I'm not hearing it. And I'm just, I've been a little bit adrift. But if I've been sitting back, and you know how many times over the years, right? Now, obviously what happened was yet another prominent comic has sort of said, you should be doing this. You should do this. You have what it takes. I think that with a bit of work and a bit of mentorship, you could be a good, working, solid comedian, right? And I've always wanted to do it. I think it's in my wiring and I think it's in my nature to a point. But I've always been fighting that inner voice where somehow I needed to be a serious person. I needed to be taken seriously. And I just spent most of my career trying to win the approval of people who, first of all, are never going to approve. Everything I do, it's just that bar moves all of the time. That credibility carrot doesn't exist. It will just move further and further away. And I've spent the last, 30 years and more trying to win the approval of people that will never approve of me, but also of people that I don't like. Trying to win the approval of people that I don't like. And it's like, well, what am I doing? And I've internalized this thing, I think, where being born gifted or with talents, you feel like you need, I've always felt quite serious about using my brains for serious things. Okay. Now, it might not look that way on the outside, but it's generally what drives me. But I always saw comedy as sort of an indulgence, as a luxury, as something that I couldn't do just by virtue of my location. And also, when I came back to Perth after trying to get out of here and go to Sydney and stuff, and I ended up having to come back for my kids, I had to grieve parts of my life that weren't going to happen, okay? Perth is a specific kind of town. It's the most isolated city in the world. It's cliquey. There's an awful lot of people who don't approve of people like me. It's very lonely in a town like this. And I'm sitting there going, well, what's realistic? I do have to sit and go, okay, well, can't just go off. I talked about this on my last live stream quite a bit, about how it would be incredibly silly of me to not put at least some thought into the decision to pursue it. Because the lifestyle of comedy can be grueling. It can open wounds that may be manageable. Right? In my part, it's like a lot of these things when you're doing writing. I always write anyway. Like I'm okay with the dark side of life, but it does have a tendency to reopen old wounds that you feel like you may have not fully healed, but at least, bandaged over and can move on, right? You've got to, like I've managed to figure it out and make it work. But it's also not working. I've been adrift for 5 years. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with my life. And everyone keeps telling me that I should pursue this thing, that I have a gift for it. And, I'm not being very funny right now, but, if you know me, you're pretty good at this sort of stuff. Just the decision to pursue this is weird and interesting and neurotic and vulnerable. When you get serious about comedy, you've got to decide, you've got to commit to it every day. You've got to write, 10 jokes a day. I already do write thousands of words every day. I don't necessarily put it out there, but that's sort of where we're at the moment, where everyone is, you need more than just putting stuff out there every day now, because everyone's bleeding their fucking life and feelings and emotions all the time. How do I turn it into art, and how do I refine it and make it something good? And, part of that it's been quite crippling which is where it's like, well, I know I've got to create content. I know I've got to do this thing. I've got to have this thing with Patreon. I've got to provide value for those that support me. But I'm kind of old school in the sense that I'm an old school person who likes to talk about my experiences and my stories. And I like making stuff funny. But I also want to be fixing problems and making people feel better and you know, and it's like, well, where do I fit? And everyone just says, fucking just get on stage, Taya, for fuck's sake. Just get on stage, be a comic, write, get some discipline. You're good. And it's like I got the networks and it's, but anyway. So part of the process for, if you commit to doing comedy full time, you've got to be committing to writing full time, which again, I already do. So that's not really an issue. It's just, you know, having the focus. But you've also got to really think about why you're doing it, because when it sucks, when you're bombing, you've got to be able to deal with bombing. You've got to be able to deal with things not going your way. You've got to deal with not making money for a very long time, or at least figure out a way to make money. Now, I'll talk about that. And that's where the Patreon fits in, but it's also where things like corporate speaking or MCs or whatever, that kind of stuff fits in. I'm fine with running workshops and keynotes and stuff like that. I've done that for years. If I punch stuff up, it should be okay. But for some reason, I've never felt good enough, I suppose, for that people would pay money to see me perform. I've never felt like that was something that people would do, okay? But maybe they will. And I've had enough people say, "But you've got what it takes." That makes, and again, like I said, you listen to patterns and you go, well, enough people are saying it. Why don't you do it? It's not like you've got anything else going on at the moment. You're just bleeding words all the time. Well, you may as well take those words and put them in. No one's reading my Substack. Not that I use Substack, but no one's reading serious stuff. Everything that I'm drawn to has been around humour, and I've always been oriented in that direction. But for some reason, something has held me back, and I think a lot of it has been about my confidence and about my self-talk and my shitty self-talk, and also pragmatic things like fucking living where I live and knowing this town and knowing what the scene is inevitably like in this town. I'm sure there's nice people, but yeah, and I know that's like that in every scene, but it's a small scene here, you know, like it's something that you have to pause and give thought to. And I don't want to, or you can't build an online presence really anymore, organically, without giving something away, and you're a slave to the algorithm. I'm running clean anyway for my first, I'll talk about that maybe tomorrow's journal, but running clean for the first few years anyway, so that's not an issue. But at the same time, online, I know how to build an online audience, but I don't really want to do that. I want to do something better. I want to go analog. I want to do something meaningful. So I've decided to do stand-up comedy, basically. I'm hilarious right now. But it's not a straightforward decision. I find it really interesting. I wish I had the confidence of people that would go, that just would just say, get on stage, work it out, figure it out. Now, there is an element to that, right? So everyone I talk to, they're like, I'm like, oh, I've got all these jokes. I got my 5 minutes. I got my clean 5 and my dirty 5. Well, not my dirty 5, but dark 5. I don't do dirty. It's not really my thing. I've got a good, clean, wholesome 5. Got a funny, probably got a corporate 5 that are ready to go, ready to be practiced and performed. I'm still punching it up, making it so that it's written and it's tight and it's written well before I start practicing it. And that's okay. But I find it, I'm not one of those people who can just fly by the seat of my pants. I know I give that impression, but I'm really not. I do work very hard. I take things very seriously. And when I decide to do something, I put the thought in ahead of time. And I put the work in ahead of time. And when I come to a decision, it's usually a decisive one, but it takes me a while to get there. And some of it is just about listening to the universe and all of those messages that I talked about before, where people, for some reason, there's this thing that and eventually it just comes to the surface. So something happens where I'm ignoring it and ignoring it and ignoring it. And people go, oh, you're funny, you should do comedy. Oh, you're funny, you should do comedy. Oh, you're funny, you should do comedy. And I go, yeah, okay, I'm over here doing this. But eventually things just align and things get louder, and it gets so loud that I have to listen, and I go, you know what? Okay, so I've got actual serious people saying I should do this. People who actually do it say you should do this. And I go, okay, well, maybe I should listen to that. And so basically the role of this is to do a daily journal. There will be an edited version that goes on sort of 10 minutes for TikTok. I'm hoping to make it sort of 10, 15, 20 minutes every day on the YouTube channel. A better, longer, probably more vulnerable version for patrons, okay? So the stuff where I'm talking, because the thing about when you are appearing on stage, it brings up a lot of stuff, okay? Especially when you're writing jokes, when you're writing comedy, you've got to do a lot of inner work, right, to even get on stage. I wish that I was one of those people that was raised to believe in myself. I wish that I was one of those people who thought that I was smart and thought that I know that objectively, I know that it's true, okay? But emotionally, I don't know that. And so, emotionally, I'm quite broken and quite neurotic and quite afraid of certain things, okay? The stage represents a lot of that for me. And so what I thought I would do is that patrons, not that I'm worried, it's not going to be like, I'm not going to be one of those people that is, billing any more than I would normally would. Like most of the time when I share something, it means I've processed it. It means I'm okay with it. It means I don't mind it. I'm not going to, there's no secrets on a patron only unedited version. But I think that would provide more value, which is that you want to make people, you want people to put some money on the table to get to know you in a more intimate way. I'd like to have a slightly more intimate relationship with my patrons and keep some things for them, but also, test out the material, right? And that needs to be paywalled. So obviously I don't have a huge number of patrons at the moment. And what that does is that just sort of narrows that audience down and allows me to test material and build that community. I think I might actually just keep that in like the patron Discord or something like, we'll figure something out. I'm still figuring that out where, figure out the details. But what I'm thinking is that I do my daily journal, which is the 10, 15 minute edited version of that. And the patrons get the unedited. Obviously I'll still edit out the bullshit, it's still got to make sense, versions, plus practicing some of my material. And also obviously patrons at a certain tier and or long term, people who've supported me in the long term will obviously, as soon as I am on, again, this is fantasy land, but in the event that I end up as an opener or am touring or I'm selling tickets or anything like that, if you've been around and supported me since the beginning, of course you get in. It's just, there's no question. If I'm supporting someone else or part of a showcase or it's a small venue or whatever, then obviously the number of comps I can do is limited. But as long as I have comps, patrons get them. Okay, so that's my sort of goal for the Patreon. And so basically I'll start to do, and obviously I've still got my normal live streams. I've still got my other stuff. I'm still working through the Juris Doctor because, again, I'm not an idiot. I need a backup plan, okay? But I do want to make myself available for speaking as well. So, it's like roasting things, like the kind of stuff that I'd put on LinkedIn. I'm probably a little edgier on LinkedIn, but, I can just do clean roast corporate comedy. I think that I'm good at that stuff, things. I still need to make money. And the problem is that obviously everyday people, normal people don't have any money at the moment. And I've always felt like I didn't want to paywall my stuff for people who were struggling. I don't think that that's fair. I want the people who have money to pay me. And who better than corporations right now pay me to, well, I don't know whether the corporations will pay someone to make fun of them. But, I can walk that line. I'm figuring out how to walk that line. So this is my comedy diary. This is day one. Just making the decision has been, months in the making. I haven't really been thinking about it seriously. So I've been wanting to do raw comedy. It's always been in the back burner. So ever since raw comedy was a thing, I've been wanting to enter, okay? I have always wanted to do Edinburgh. I've always wanted to do those things. I've always thought that I would probably be more on the business side of things than as an act. Okay, so I've always wanted to be I've always wanted to do it. It's always been in the background, and I've always been funny. But it really only came to the surface. I think back in 2011, I did think about getting serious about comedy for a while, but that kind of life got in the way, and it's just someone that I respected, someone who I am a fan of. contacted me and said, you know what, I've been watching you over the years and I think you've got what it takes. And, people say things all the time. I don't, I take it with a grain of salt, but it's not the first person to say that, but he was the first person to say it in a way that made me think, you know what, maybe I could, maybe I can, maybe I should get over myself. And sometimes it is just right place, right time, catching me in the right moment, catching me when I'm sort of in that space where I'm open to hearing it. Because a lot of the time I'm like, the last time I thought about doing comedy seriously, the internet was still working. You were still able to grow an audience. You were still able to, I was still just writing blog posts and in business and doing other things. I was able to carve a living for myself. But now there really is no other option because everything's so fucked. Like the only thing I know how to do is the one thing that I can't do in good conscience. So it's like, well, I need to do something else. Well, it's that or law. And it's like, well, okay, why not? Let's give it a go. You think I can do it? Others think I can do it. I'm not sure. But a lot of my uncertainty is probably more related to negative self-talk than it is talent or ability. Like I was scared of video and now I will live stream to no one. But I mean, a part of the reason why the audience hasn't grown is because I haven't tried to grow the audience. I haven't really had any focus around it. I have hoped that people wouldn't really watch on a subconscious level. I've hoped that I get anxious when a lot of people are watching me because I didn't have my voice. I didn't know what I was trying to say. And you've seen me, like if you go back, I'm in two minds about whether to keep my content archived or public or not or whatever. I'm still figuring that out. Because I think that there's something about working out loud. There's something about that stream of consciousness. There's something about leaning into that vulnerability and talking about the fact that I have stage fright. A lot of comics have stage fright. A lot of comics are introverts. A lot of comics are neurotic as fuck. Every comic I know like drinks. Every they can't sleep. They overthink everything. They obsess. They overanalyze. And it's like, okay, well maybe we need to talk more about that side of things. Not the fucking. I think there's a backlash against the sort of Rogan bro types who, again, nothing against them. Everyone, there's no dissing. It's a hard art regardless, right? But I always compared myself to those people who are confident. Now, again, we don't see the flip side of that. Obviously, when you know people who are creative, they don't necessarily show that side. But I thought, you know what? What I'm going to do is make myself that. Talk about what it means and how hard it is to decide to pursue something that is, who the fuck do you think you are? You think like that kind of stuff. Sounds like you're having a manic episode. I'm going to go and pursue this stand-up comedy thing now. It has unpacked a lot for me because the uncertainty is insane. Like it's not about obviously the structured craft of joke writing and all of the technical aspects. I work hard. I'll nail that part. But that inner shit, man, that self-doubt, that am I being selfish? The fact that my son is into this as well and I see his talent, I kind of feel like I need to do it to model to him that he can do it too. And I think that he will end up working with me or I will end up, we'll end up being a bit of a team there, which I think is really cool. And Paul supports me no matter what, right? But, you got to think these things through. And a lot of it is actually just my negative bullshit. Everyone I talk to is like, so have you done your open mic yet? And then I'm like, but I got to write the thing. Yeah, blah, shut up. Hey, have you done it yet? Shut up. I will. I've set the goal to do it. I've set myself a deadline to do it. But I just got to get my act together. I don't want to embarrass myself. Obviously, you can't control every situation, but you can prepare and respect the audience enough to make sure that when you do stuff, you are prepared. And there's a balance there, right? You don't want to be overanalyzing it, but you also don't want to be reckless either. Like I can't afford to be. If I'm doing this, I have to do it efficiently. So up front, I need to know have some idea of what my voice is. That might change, but some idea of what type of comedy I want to do. Going through some of this stuff, I didn't realize that I kind of really wanted to be cleaner than I thought. And it's not just because of the money, but because I like the challenge. Okay, I do find edgy comedy, or there's only a handful of people that can really do it well. And one thing I have observed from going to the open mics is that there's a lot of people who confuse shock and gross and offensive with funny. And it's like, well, yes, people laugh at different things, okay, but I don't want to be that kind of comic. I want to be the comic that gets a genuine, involuntary, well-earned laugh. And I know, again, overthinking it, that takes practice, but also because of my age and because, you know, obviously I don't have money. I don't have I need to make a living somehow as well. Become a patron if you want. I'm an adult. I've got to think things through. You don't, when you're in your 20s, you can just decide to do that. Okay. You can just go, fuck it. I'm going to van life it and follow my dreams. When you've got rising rents, other people, you know, like it's going to affect, because he's going to be paying the bills for a while until I can figure out a way to sort of make this all pay for itself, right? I can do that, I think, but once I got a clear plan, like I said, making the Patreon work for me better, you know, doing all of those sorts of things will help. Yeah, so this it's not straightforward, is what I'm trying to say. I know I've talked too long, but it really is not. But I'm hoping that I can, by documenting this and showing that progress and holding myself accountable to the people who are interested in this story. It's obviously not going to be huge, okay? A lot of the comedy content that I see is basically there's this weird niche on YouTube that I've seen, which is people who are not showing their faces, talking about drama between American comics and their podcasts and covering, okay, that's not really, if you're in the arena, then I don't care what you've got to say, but this weird thing where obviously there's a market for that, right? There's a market for bitching about Joe Rogan and Whitney, what's her name? Whitney Cummings and all that, and trying to monetize that drama and start that stuff and talk about gossip and stuff, but it's really not my scene. And I respect anyone who decides to do this. I respect anyone who goes hard and decides to pursue this because it's actually really idiotic to decide to do that. Like, nobody sensible has any sense would pursue comedy, if I'm honest with you, like, especially because it unmasks a lot of neurosis. It's been interesting, actually. It's like the second it opened up as a possibility, there's been a cascade of various things, like, what kind of comic do I want to be? What's my voice? And again, I'm going to break this down. I don't need to say all of the information up front like that. It's like, okay, that's my tendency, is I can just focus on small chunks. And so today it's just introducing you to the idea that I'm journaling and how I'm feeling, but a lot of it has just saying that it has brought up stuff. Who do I want to be? What do I want to say? I've got 5 minutes. What do I want to say with that 5 minutes? But I've got to do it in a way that gets me booked elsewhere and gets me, but I don't want it. It can't take 10 years. I'm 45 years old. I need to do it in 3 to 5 years. So I need to make it so that and again, some things some things take time to learn. Thankfully, the comedy writing part, I'm fine. And thankfully, I've also been live streaming for so many years that I do have some sense. And I'm also a comedy fan. Like, it is, I do think that I'm not just somebody, I think the people who take 10 years are the people who are starting from scratch, right? Surely, who've just been said, you're funny, you should get on stage. It's like, well, no, I like to think that I'm a little more ahead and could probably do things I could fast track myself in a few ways because I've got the networks and I've got the support, and I could go all in, but it still might take 5 years, 6 years, right, before I'm even ready. And I might not even get ready. It might just be something that I don't want to do after 3 weeks because I'm too afraid, and that's okay too. But I thought, hey, let's just lean into it. Let's give it a go. I have made the decision for now, and yeah. So I'm not sure whether it's going to be daily, public and unedited on Patreon, or whether it is 3 times a week public and 2 bonus sort of on the off days. I'm still deciding. It will depend on the workflow and all that sort of stuff, because everything that I do here obviously takes away from the writing, and obviously I've still also got to make money. I've still got to do all these other things. So I'm just going to do my best. Part of the reason why I want to do this journal is because I'm already writing so much. I don't want to add journaling on top of that. So I'm journaling with my face because it's the only thing that I can do, because I'm already writing so much that, you know, the journaling part is just, it's a little bit redundant, but yeah, it kills a few birds with one stone. But anyway, I'm going to go. I will talk tomorrow. I'm just so you know, like, this is, I'll try to make it a lot more interesting moving forward, and what my sort of main thought is. A lot of this is just introducing the idea of me doing comedy and the fact that there is a comedy diary here, and that patrons will get the unedited version. And yeah, so be well, and I'll talk tomorrow. I'll still be doing my normal live streams and stuff. I just got to get organized. It's just, I've got so much to do. And if I'm going to do this thing properly, I need to focus my energy in the correct directions at all times. Okay. And I also need to find ways to optimize all of these things that require my time, because obviously, you know, the more individual pieces of content you've got to do, you know, the more stretched you end up being. So, but anyway, thank you for your support. I appreciate it. I know this has probably been a little self-indulgent, but I will get better. It's just, obviously, the first one's always fucking hard. It's just, but tomorrow I'll talk a little bit, depends on where my head is at, but I probably talk a little bit more about the decision, and yeah, I don't know yet. Let's see how the day goes. See what my writing teases out, because I do free writing every day as well. So that might, actually, I might talk about how I was angry at I got angry at someone for saying I should do something, and my emotions around that, because that was a really interesting thing. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, we'll talk tomorrow, and I hope you're well. And yes, if you are interested in the unedited version of this, I've got to keep saying this shit. If you're interested in the unedited version of this, then you can become a patron. I've got to set up my tiers and set that stuff up again, and but it is connected to a Discord. I will be using the Discord server. I tried to fight it and try to do Telegram and stuff, but I think Discord's just the only way to go. I think most people have it these days, and given that my target audience is now more of a general entertainment audience, I think Discord makes sense. You know, if it was a more serious audience, then I would have tried other things. But I think that now, once you know who your audience is and what you're doing, and you have focus, it's easy to line up all of the other stuff. That's just a matter of execution. But I'll work through that in the next few days. I've got to do that stuff. I need new brand assets and all of those things. But I will be, yeah, but, you know, do sign up in the meantime, and I will talk tomorrow. I love you. Take care. Bye.